he continues just to take heat over the bullpen usage, his lineups, his lack of pinch hitting in critical situations. Now, we've talked about it here a million times. We know Dusty is a made man. He's not going anywhere. They're not going to cut him loose midseason. So what is the solution? How do the Astros deal with their Dusty problem or their Dusty challenge?
Yeah, Dusty's not Jimmy Williams. There's not going to be a managerial change at the All-Star break, or you could knock us over with a feather. I'm going to say this first solution, 44 of them. Well, actually, number 44. Yordan's the fulcrum of this lineup. You'd like Altuve to stay healthy and produce. He needs to DH more when he gets back, less Julks or McCormick/Myers. Although if Dusty's going to continue to have Maldonado on pace to start 115 games, which in itself actually is a fireable offense, right? Yainer Diaz has to get more and more DH at bats. But you get Yordan back. I mean, that just anchors your lineup. It lengthens your lineup. It's one decision that Dusty does not have to make. And Bregman, right? Every time he has a good game or two, oh, Breggy's back. And then he goes 5 for 24. Carl Ravitch on the Sunday night telecast, it looks like Jose Abreu is back because he has a couple good days. He was 5 for 27 before those last couple days. I will say this about Abreu. Month of June with less than a week to go in it, starting the Cardinal series on Tuesday night. This would be acceptable Abreu. His OPS is 796. That's good. It's not special for a first baseman. Oh, Abreu's back. His OPS in June is 796. 796 OPS for a season would be the worst season of Abreu's career. But it's not the anvil killing your lineup, obviously, that it was the first 3 months of the season. 796. Way better than Yuli Gurriel was last year. So if you can have June Abreu, you don't have yourself a stud first baseman, but you have yourself worthy play. And if that guy's pushed down a spot in the lineup when you have Yordan back, and Bregman has a solid second half, and Altuve has a healthy and solid second half, well, then your lineup should be good again. Top 5 in baseball again? Maybe not, but good again. And if your pitching's going to remain near the top of MLB and earned run average, well, that should be a playoff team. Reeling in the Rangers, don't know, but a playoff team at least.
Yeah, obviously Abreu is a big part of it. I pulled some stats on him. This is the first time his OPS is over 600. It's the first time since mid-April. So, I mean, that just kind of shows you how long it's been. He is getting better. What's nice, I've seen some good scoops at first base. On his defense is looking a little better in recent games, which has helped out for sure. So I like that. Every week I do the update where, he has the second worst OPS of all qualified players in baseball. Not anymore, guys. He is at 4th, just in front of Miles Straw. So we will take that little bit of improvement when we get it. As far as Dusty, I think it's the Chaz stuff too. We talked about it last week. Chandler Rome reported he didn't think it was a secret. Dusty wasn't a big Chaz McCormick fan. This guy's got to play more. I mean, Yainer Diaz has to play more. He has the best OPS on the team right now with Yordan out. Behind him, it's Tucker and Chaz. So these guys need to be on the field more. If you're going to use Julks, then maybe Jake Myers needs to go to the bench. But you got to get McCormick in there. You got to get Yainer in there, especially while Yordan's out. Yainer should be DHing every game he's not catching. I don't know what they're doing there. I know he's playing more. He needs to play every day.
Julks does some exciting stuff. Myers has had a couple stretches where he's been very good. But you are the sum of your works. They're both sub 700 OPS guys. They're not good offensive players unless there's going to be a real takeoff. So minimizing their at-bats. You get Yordan back. Yainer had started 12 of the last 13 games before watching Sunday as Maldonado kept screwing up bunt attempts and so what are you going to do when Yordan is back, Altuve's back? Where are you going to spot Dubon, who to me clearly is now the better defensive second baseman than Altuve, though Dubon, still not a good offensive player, 8 walks and 200 and some odd at bats. The batting average is nice, but the power is minimal. The OPS is not good. The Astros lineup in that game Sunday against the Dodgers, not one 800 OPS guy in it. Tucker the best at 794. Texas Rangers lineup Sunday, not one guy in the entire lineup with an OPS lower than 792. Right? The Astros had 4 guys sub 700 when you throw in Abreu and Maldonado with Myers and Julks. So they just don't have enough quality bullets in that lineup right now. It's Jordan and Altuve getting back. And then how do you fill out the rest? But minimizing plate appearances for sub 700 OPS guys has to be a priority. And the worst of them all, broken record, is Maldonado. So when you have Jordan back, however you're going to funnel in Dubon, to me, Altuve should be DHing a couple of times per week. Now you're throwing a heel after the oblique. He's 33 years old now, load management, but you want the bat in the lineup at least. Yainer has to become the majority catcher. There is not a leg to stand on at this point with Martin Maldonado, from pop time to throwing out base stealers to obviously anything in the batter's box to pitcher's ERA with the catcher, the framing data. If you buy into that, Dusty frankly needs to get over it with Martin Maldonado.
The players have to play better, right? That's just the bottom line. Dusty isn't the reason that Jordan's hurt. He's not the reason that Altuve broke his hand. He didn't break Montero's confidence. We talked about this before the show. Jose Siri has as many home runs as Jeremy Pena and Jose Abreu combined. Granted, his on-base percentage is pathetic, but like that just kind of goes to show you what kind of a weird year this is and kind of what the Astros are, kind of working through. But Dusty did talk about using guys because they're on the roster. Does Dana dare trade away Maldi to where Dusty has no choice but to use Yainer more?
That would take some stones. Frankly, there's an argument to DFA Maldonado and release him. Would there really be a mutiny on the pitching staff? And call up Corey Lee to split the time behind the plate with Diaz, find more about Lee as well as you project into 2024, and name Maldonado assistant bench coach with Joe Espada. He can talk strategy and impart wisdom every time a pitcher comes to the dugout. But Maldonado's game at this point has no strengths. It has no strengths, right? That he calls a superior game. Does it appear that he calls a superior game to Yainer Diaz? Does he move behind the plate very well? We've talked about the pass balls and wild pitch calls that he gets a break on. I've said before, the machete blade has dulled. You mentioned
it's
Josh
a butter
Hoffman.
knife.
What's his percentage of bouncing throws to second? He's also
Right.
tailing throws away.
Yeah.
His arm strength is not what it was. And, this is the number 9 hitter. So going from the worst in all of baseball, right? He doesn't qualify or he'd be dead last, where Abreu is 4th from the bottom. Abreu could be 5th from the bottom if only Maldonado had the plate appearances. But every incremental improvement matters when you're just another decent team in the mix. You look at the Astros roster top to bottom and compare it to the Blue Jays. Are the Astros clearly better? No, they're not. The Texas Rangers starting pitchers have a slightly better collective earned run average than the Astros starting pitchers. I'm not a real buyer on the Angels, but what if they work a little thunder at the trade deadline? The Yankees have been hit by injuries worse than have the Astros this year, and the Astros are right there with the Yankees. The Mariners make a move. The Red Sox are in last place in the American League East. They're 2 games behind the Astros. The Astros are just another team. So you are frittering away at bats or innings here or there that cost you a game here or there. Hey, in the end, this can be the difference between getting in the playoffs or going home the first week of October for the first time in years.
Yeah, where's the biggest improvement you could make just by making one move? How about instead of Maldonado playing almost every day with a 543 OPS, it's Yainer Diaz in there with an 801 OPS? Just that one little change. And to have an advantage at catcher, or most teams don't have great catchers anyway, that can make a huge difference just in that one move right there.
Well, we know it could make a difference, but I do wonder if Dana feels empowered enough to make that sort of move and to create that sort of ripple, because I do think that would send kind of shockwaves through the locker room there. But is it the good kind of shockwaves that motivates a team and lets them know that, the situation's critical and everyone it's an all hands on deck moment? Or is it one that makes them lose confidence because they feel like maybe it's desperation? I think really the performance on field is what's going to drive it. And we've talked about that ad nauseum here, which is it's going to be the performance of the players that's ultimately going to dictate the success of this team. But they're not being helped right now by Dusty Baker's decision-making. There is a direct correlation to critical late game moves that are happening or not happening, and he's not helping the situation. So I don't think, doing anything to, directly fix Dusty's decision making is the one lever that changes everything. But boy, it sure could help, and the Maldi move sure could definitely make a big difference, as we've talked about. Charlie, final thought before we go on to our next topic?
At bare minimum, you invert their roles. Whereas Diaz is the guy who catches 2/3, 3/4 of the games. You don't want Diaz catching every day the rest of the way, because there's the risk of him wearing down some and sapping from the bat. But Diaz, if he's going to OPS 800, he should be the majority catcher and then get spot DH starts, the occasional first base start. Right? We saw Dubon debut at first base in the last few days. They're not blessed with depth decisions to make from the minor leagues, that they call up Bly Madris, that they signed John Singleton. I mean, great individual story for John Singleton, but that this is what they're trying for organizational depth at first base at this point. Yiner should be part of that when he is not the primary catcher. This is fractions, not calculus, right? This particular decision.